Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome to the first Ask Away of 2021. How is everybody? I hope everybody had a good New Year. I mean, I'm acting like I haven't seen you since the New Year, but I've done a couple live streams already and had other videos come out. But just in case you haven't seen a live stream of mine yet this year, and this is the first time that we're actually talking to each other since the New Year, since the holidays. I hope you had a good holiday. I hope you had a good New Year's. And yeah, so as always, if you are watching live in the chat and you have a question or you have something that you want me to talk about or whatever, please hold off until I get to the end of my pre-submitted questions from Patreon patrons, because I'll be answering those first. And good, Vovacat says it is the first stream this year. I hope happy New Year, my friend. Anyway, yeah, hold your questions and comments and super chats and all that stuff. If you were planning on donating any of those or sending me any of those. So until I get to the end of the patron questions, which I will begin answering right the hell now. The first patron question is from Carlisle the Cinephile, who says, "Hey there, Steve. The two most recent Spider-Man games that were released by Insomniac Studios both drew some controversy for their portrayal of both Spider-Man's relationship with police, and it's gotten me thinking about superheroes and their relationship to law enforcement in a much broader sense. I know it varies from portrayal to portrayal, but it's almost always depicted as positive to some degree. With everything that's been going on in the world, especially recently, how do we, as cognizant superhero fans, reconcile this? How do you think superhero stories should go about exploring this issue in a way that doesn't devolve into propaganda?" That's a really, really good question. I think obviously the sort of perspective on superheroes and cops needs to change. Actually, Dana and I recorded a video a couple of days ago that's going to go up on Monday that is about the movie Zootopia and whether or not Zootopia is an example of propaganda. And we talk about a lot of issues related to the depiction of police in popular media there. And yeah, with superheroes, it is definitely a problem because I haven't played either of those games, but yeah, superheroes in general, even Batman, who in his more grim iterations is sometimes portrayed as a bit of an outlaw, they tend to have a very positive relationship with the cops. And as a result, the cops overall are portrayed positively in their stories. And I do think it would be nice if superhero stories were more critical of the police and not just the sort of safe areas that we can all agree on that should be criticized, like police corruption and like isolated incidents of police brutality and unjustified force. I mean, that's all great. We should keep pointing that out and criticizing that stuff. But the institutional things that need to be critiqued as well. The idea that, maybe it's time, maybe it's well past time that we fundamentally rethink what the role of police in our society should be. And maybe we should talk about things like that. And maybe even before we get to that point, we should all agree to, before we even get to the point of, should we defund the police? Should we, fire all the cops and hire everybody back again and, rebuild our police departments from the ground up? Should we, whatever we decide to do, can we at least demilitarize them first? Can we, that would be nice. But yeah, there's a lot that I think that a superhero story, if your hero is someone who works more or less on the side of the cops, but is not themselves a cop, there's a lot of potential there to explore that stuff. And I do wish that more superhero stories would do that, and I think, and the way you stop it from devolving into propaganda is by being thoughtful and critical in the way that you depict the police, so that it doesn't come across as though you are sending a message of, well, all cops are heroes and the ones that aren't are just the exceptions to the rule, and the system as a whole is fine and doesn't need to be reformed or rethought in any serious way. That's how you end up coming across, whether you intend to or not. That's how you end up coming across as propaganda. So you need to be thoughtful of stuff like that. Yeah. But yeah, I would love to see more superhero stories that were more critical of policing in that way. David Colby says, "Hey, Steve, I'm really sorry to hear about your recent hardships, and I hope things aren't going too badly, all things considered. Let's all cheer up. Enumerate every reason you fucking hate Zack Snyder's take on Superman." This should cheer us all up. Boy, you are really opening Pandora's box here. First of all, I'm doing fine. I've gotten a lot of messages from people who are, asking about me and making really nice sort of overtures, and I'm okay. As I announced on social media last week, I guess, my wife and I are splitting up. We're getting a divorce, and I just announced it last week, but it's been going on for several months. So I mean, I'm in a new place. I'm fine. Like all of the sort of heavy, difficult stuff is over with already. So I'm doing okay. Like, people who are worried about me don't need to worry. It's really sweet and awesome that you are, but you really don't need to worry about me. But I will totally take this opportunity. I can't enumerate every reason that I hate Zack Snyder's take on Superman, but I'll list a few of them really quickly if you want. I don't like the gratuitous violence of it. I don't like that he's, punch people Superman. I just think that's boring. I hate the fact that he's so dour and glum and joyless about being a superhero. I hate the fact that we almost never see him save anybody. I hate the fact that other than Lois and people in the military, you almost never see him interact with civilians, with regular people. Like, there's a really nice montage at the beginning of the new Wonder Woman movie that's just Wonder Woman going around saving people. And it was refreshing, because I thought, God, how long has it been since we saw a sequence like this in a DC movie? Like, the Zack Snyder movies just don't have this kind of stuff. That you do not see Superman helping people. The motherfucker doesn't help anybody, even when he's in a situation where he should be helping people, even when he's in a situation where, like, I don't know, there's people trapped on a roof in a flood. We don't see him help anybody. We see him, like, hovering above them like some remote, intimidating God figure. We see him, a bomb goes off in Congress and kills everybody in the room and sets the building on fire. Do we see Superman? And Superman's there when it happens. Do we see him blowing out the fire, or searching for survivors, or helping to evacuate people? It's silly. No, he just stands there and frowns at the fire, like Superman would do. Just, ooh, I can't believe they blew it up when I was here. I'm so mad. He sucks. He sucks. He's a terrible Superman. He's a terrible character. And he's boring, and he's violent, and he's one-dimensional, and he's a horrible hero, and he's just bad. He's just bad. He's a bad man. He's a bad man and a bad Superman. And those aren't the only reasons. Those aren't all the reasons, obviously. But those are some of the reasons, He's a bad man. He's a bad man, Superman. Next question is from Michael Hanline. Watched your vid with Ebony Adams on cop shows, and I wanted input from you and your audience if they want. My wife had been trying to make a career as a TV actor for a while and did background for years before getting her big break, a minor but recurring speaking role on Lucifer, a show about the devil teaming up with an LAPD detective to solve murders. We live in a low-income area of LA, so we weren't exactly fans of the LAPD even before George Floyd, and supported BLM. But after Floyd, we've been calling out how cops are bastards and needed to be defunded, etc. Some think that makes us hypocrites, since my wife plays a cop on TV, and I support her 100%. We think that because Lucifer is obviously fantastical and doesn't exactly portray the LAPD in a good light, the first arc of the show is that all the other cops hate Protag Cop for ratting out a corrupt cop, so Lucifer inserts himself into the LAPD to partner with her. It's fine, but obviously there's bias on our parts. Are we hypocrites? No, I don't think so, and I don't think that it's hypocritical of an actor to be anti-cop or to be someone who is very much in support of police reform and pointing out the problems with policing and also work on a cop show. I mean, there's a couple of reasons why I think you should give yourselves a break for that. First of all, it's a tough world and people have to make a living, and there's nothing inherently immoral about being an actor, certainly. And if your wife was lucky enough to be able to find work as an actor, especially on what was, I think, and it still is, I guess, because are they still doing it on Netflix? I've never watched Lucifer, but it was a fairly high profile show. It had a pretty good fan base and was a show that a lot of people like. So if you're lucky enough to get on that show, and you can make some money doing it, and I mean, that's good for you. And if you happen to be on a cop show, but you also are critical of cops, like that I don't think that automatically makes you a hypocrite, or that's anything that you should be worried about or ashamed of or anything like that. I think it's completely fine. If you were working on a show, if your wife was working on a show that was just blatant propaganda, that was sending messages like, Black Lives Matter protesters don't have a point, or we don't need police reform, or et cetera, then you might be able to say, well, you're a hypocrite because you're taking money from a show that is promoting police and being very not critical of police, but you yourself are saying that this is really important to you. How can you reconcile this? Like, that might be a different situation. But generally speaking, even if you are on a cop show, but you're very much aware of the need for police reform and in favor of that, I don't think that makes you a hypocrite. I just don't think so. I think it's to your credit and to your wife's credit that you are concerned about it, that you have even thought about it, that you are open to the possibility that this is a problem. But from where I stand, I don't think it's, I think it's fine. As you say that you two have decided after thinking about it, that I think it's fine. I think it's fine. Being on the show obviously hasn't dulled your awareness of the issue. So, I think it's fine. I think it's fine. Next question is from Orion McMurray. Have you ever been to Metropolis, Illinois? They have a very nice museum there filled with Superman memorabilia. It's worth the trip. I don't know if there is one for Batman, although there should be. I don't know if there is a Gotham City. There probably is. There's probably like a little rinky-dink, 800-person town called Gotham City somewhere, but I've never heard of it. No, I have never been to Metropolis, Illinois. I am aware of the place, and I am aware of the Superman museum and the Superman statue. I think a lot of us have probably seen that famous photograph of Barack Obama standing in front of the Superman statue and doing the Superman pose with his arms on his hips, his hands on his hips. But no, I've never been there. But yeah, I would totally love to go. I'd love to visit Metropolis, Illinois. Next question is from Meg. Hi, I think you've briefly mentioned it a couple of times in a few of the videos I've watched, but is there any chance you'll make a video about neurodivergence in the Star Trek world? I'm neurodivergent myself, and I really connected to the characters who were coded to be like me, specifically Dr. Bashir. I'm curious about your thoughts on how everyone is supposed to be over their prejudices, but his parents still try to fix him. And in my opinion, he's still neurodivergent. Many episodes of not meeting others' eyes, not understanding sarcasm, not always knowing what to do with his body, hands, missing social cues, etc. I just really love when you do the full analysis videos. And if you felt comfortable, I would love to see your opinion on this Dr. Bashir, other neurodivergent characters. P.S. Love your videos. Thank you for all your hard work. I love Star Trek, and I've learned so much from you. Well, thank you very much I'm glad that you dig the videos. I'm glad you're a patron. Yes, that is a topic I have thought about making videos about. It would require a lot of research on my part. Not that that's a reason not to do it. I'm just saying, because I am neurotypical as far as I know, as far as I've ever felt. So that is not my experience, and I would have to sort of learn about that experience in order to judge how well represented it is in Star Trek. But I do think, and I've never heard anyone. I've heard people talk about the depiction of Dr. Bashir. The depiction of Dr. Bashir, 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 the depiction of D and his genetic engineering, and the various problems that they've had with it. But I don't know if I've ever heard anyone argue that he is, as we see him in the present day of the show, that he is a neurodivergent person. But I think that's really interesting. That's just it may just be something I never noticed, and I don't know if the writers intended that or if Alexander Siddig played him that way because he thought that worked for the character, or he saw that in the character on the page. I'm not sure, but that's a really interesting idea. And obviously the most sort of recognized neurodivergent character in Star Trek is probably Lieutenant Barclay, who I have done a video about, but he would not be. He would not have the same kind of neurodivergence that you're describing Bashir is having. Not quite. So yeah, Bashir, looking at Bashir from that perspective could be really interesting. I would totally do a video about that. I would have to think about it and come up with sort of a particular idea for it, a particular thesis for it. But the idea, I think, is generally really, really good. And I would totally do that. Absolutely. So if I ever do that video, you can watch it and go, see, I gave that bastard the idea for that. But yeah, I think it's really, I've never thought of Bashir that way, but I think that's a really, really interesting suggestion. Lisa Garrison says, when I was a kid, I had an autoimmune disorder that caused me to go blind in my right eye. For a lot of years, I was told by doctors that the best hope to restore my vision would eventually be cybernetics. Every few years, I check in with specialists to ask, hey, can I sign up for any dangerous experimental procedures yet? When I did this in December 2019, I had a weird experience I'd like to hear your opinion on. As part of the appointment, I had to meet with a woman whose day job is talking girls out of abortions, and I discovered that under current U.S. bioethics standards, to get any cybernetics that requires brain surgery requires 3 years of counseling before the surgery. I understandably had a lot of questions. After researching a bit, I discovered a lot of it comes from the likes of noted nerd Rand Paul, who regularly cites movies like Gattaca in his congressional speeches. So, do you think people let their expectations from sci-fi do too much in shaping their opinions on real science? Yes! Yes, I do, for good and for bad. I mean, in terms of movies can give us unrealistic positive expectations, and movies can also give us unfounded fears and concerns where technology is concerned. I do think that it's reasonable to require some kind of waiting period, or some kind of counseling or evaluation before cybernetic brain surgery. But 3 years seems a little excessive. Maybe 6 months, a year, or maybe get evaluated by, you have to at least get a second opinion from a doctor who also acknowledges that you need this, or that this is a safe procedure. Like, I have no problem with regulating that kind of procedure to make sure that it's safe and to make sure that it's warranted and to make sure that people who want to get it or who think they need to get it will be okay. But 3 years seems a little excessive, and if your reason for requiring such a regulation is Gattaca, I'm a Star Trek nerd. I would not say that we shouldn't be allowing people to get cybernetic implants if that ever becomes normalized and that becomes something that is a viable treatment for a lot of people in a lot of different conditions. I would not argue that, we need to be careful about this. We don't want people to turn into Borg. Like, that's not a viable argument. That's not a viable argument at all. And, and it's weird that Rand Paul is the one sort of pushing for this kind of regulation when he's like Mr. Libertarian guy, Mr. Keep the government out of my business. But then I guess he saw Gattaca and he was like, we got to stop that from happening. So I don't know. But yes, I do think that we allow sci-fi to shape our perceptions and our expectations too much. We should be led by actual science, not by sci-fi science. Dataport Doll, who definitely didn't get her heart broken watching Talentless Nana. Evening, Steve. I wanted to share a couple of fantasies of mine regarding the final 2 weeks of the Trump era. The first is easy. Hirochito takes a long vacation on January 19th and never comes back. He might escape justice, but in such a case, he would certainly be admitting fault and his assets would be seized, and the idea of Donald Trump dying alone in a squalid Soviet-era apartment has a nice ring to it. The other involves a late trip to Moscow, where instead of Trump staying behind, it's Rudy with a tearful Lassie scene, complete with Trump crying and shouting down the ramp to Air Force One, "No, Rudy, stay! It's not safe for you back home." No, Ma, Rudy's my dog is acceptable as well. Thus the question, what's your ideal scenario for the next 2 weeks, no matter how ridiculous? After the events of the last couple of days, and I think this question was posted before that, but I could be wrong. But after the events of the last couple of days, I mean, even though it might seem pointless because his term is almost up anyway, God, I would love if they would impeach him again. I would love if they would impeach him again, and if they would remove him by impeachment and Pence got to be president for like a week before Biden took over. I would love that, because not only do I think would it send the message that no, for real, this is that urgent. He's that unfit for office. We need to remove him now. We should have removed him years ago, and we didn't, because we didn't take it seriously. Now we see what the logical conclusion of the last 4 years is, and we can't let this go on another day, even if his term is almost up anyway. We just can't do this. Like, it sends that message. And also, it would just be fucking humiliating for him to be within days of completing his term. It's bad enough that he got beat. It's bad enough that he got beat in the election, and then he spent too much whining about it and impotently trying to overturn the result and getting absolutely nowhere. He was the biggest sore loser man baby ever. That didn't work. And then after all that, he can't even finish out the term. He gets impeached and removed with days left in his term. That, mwah. I don't think that's actually going to happen. But, that would be nice. That would be nice. So that would be my ideal scenario. That he gets removed from office before his term expires. Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be nice. Andrew Michael Priest, greetings, my man. No question this time, and I won't be offended if you'd prefer not to read this out on Ask Away. I just want to wish you all the best with your current situation. I'm going through an extremely painful separation. The wife has threatened to report me as an abusive husband and father so she can take my little girl away. It's been horrific. I'm glad your situation isn't the same as mine, but I know how hard things must be for you. Don't want this to be a downer comment, but you know you've got over 100,000 people on YouTube and all your patrons genuinely care about you. I don't want to sound patronizing. Well, you are a patron, so, you know. And I'm probably way out of bounds with this comment, but please remember that if you need a place to vent or people to support you, however we can, there are lots of us about. Sorry if this message has upset you or is out of line, but your update really hit me. Take care, Steve, and all the best for 2021. No, please. It's fine. I really appreciate the thought. I'm sorry for what you're going through. And yeah, as I said earlier, I'm okay, but I do really appreciate the kind words and the good thoughts that people are passing along. It really means a lot. I'm not in that bad of a situation, but I do really appreciate it. And it means a lot. So yeah, thank you very much. And nothing out of bounds or nothing that you need to be sheepish about at all by saying something like that. Jacob Monroe says, hello, Steve. I was talking with my brother about The Mandalorian the other day, and he was complaining about how bad he thought the Ahsoka costume looked. I told him that I thought it looked fine, but then he clarified that it was bad because of an error in continuity with the Rebels animated series, where her head tails were much longer. When I pointed out that this change was likely made to make give Rosario Dawson more mobility, he insisted that this inconsistency made the costume look dumb, and they should have found a way to match the character's look from the animated series. All I could do was laugh. Have you ever noticed an error in continuity that bothered you this much, or heard someone else's similar complaint that you found to be not at all worth complaining over? As a matter of fact, I have. Now, I do notice things like that from time to time. I'm not as sharp at noticing them as other people are because I don't give a shit most of the time. But I do notice them. It's just that when I notice them most of the time, 999 times out of 1,000, when I notice something like that, it does not affect my opinion of the show or the movie or whatever, because I don't care. Like, I don't care. I would probably chalk it up to something like you said. If her look was different in live action than it was in the cartoon, that's probably because it was to give the actor an easier time performing the character, right? And that's a completely legitimate thing. And I think it's really, really silly to complain about something like that, especially to the point that it's affecting your enjoyment of the show. Now, everybody's entitled to an opinion. He feels the way he feels about it. Personally, I think it's silly and I don't get it. The example that I always cite, and I know I've talked about this in videos a time or two before, but I feel like it's been a while, so I will mention it again. And for those of you who have heard me tell this story, here's a greatest hit for you. So 18 years ago, almost 19 years ago, when the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie was in theaters, I went to see it with my roommate, my best friend at the time, and I thought it was amazing. I thought it was great. I thought it was so much better than I expected it to be, because that first Spider-Man movie was one that had been sort of in development hell for a while. And I saw it and I was just floored. I thought, this is so good. Like, I love this movie. And my buddy and I were at Walmart not too long after the movie came out, and he ran into a friend of his who he knew to be a huge comic book nerd. And so, of course, the first question that he asks this friend that he runs into, I guess he hadn't talked to him for a little while, and the first thing he says is, "Hey, did you see Spider-Man? What did you think of Spider-Man?" Thinking that this guy, this comic book nerd, would have just been over the moon for this awesome movie about Spider-Man. And the guy, he just kind of frowns and kind of, just makes a face, and he's like, didn't really like it. And my friend is like, "Well, why not? Like, what didn't you like about it? I thought it was awesome. What was wrong with it?" And he says, "Well, it was okay. Like, I thought it was okay until this. And he's miming like the web shooters. And of course, in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, unlike in the comics, Peter Parker does not have mechanical web shooters that he invented. He has biological web shooters that are the webs just come out of his wrist, and he just goes like that. He does the familiar hand sign for Spider-Man, but it comes out of his wrist instead of out of a gadget that he puts on his wrist. And for this comic book nerd that was a friend of my friend, that ruined the whole movie for him. The whole movie. The fact that they changed one little thing about Spider-Man that has nothing to do with his character, that has nothing to do with anything other than where the webs come from. Right? Ruined the movie for him. And again, his right. He can feel how he feels. If he doesn't like the movie for that reason, that is completely up to him. Art is subjective, etc., etc. But I think that's just about the most dipshittiest, foolish, ridiculous reason for not liking a movie that I've ever heard. But yes, so that is my example. It's not necessarily a continuity thing, but it is to me a meaningless, superficial change that was done for expediency so that they could just get on with the goddamn story and they wouldn't have to do like a little side story to explain how the hell Peter Parker, high school student, is able to make this revolutionary technology in his fucking basement with his chemistry set that he got for Christmas, or however it was in the comics that were written for children in the early 1960s. I thought it was not just an acceptable change, but actually a really smart, really good change, and ruined the movie for this guy. So yeah, that's my example. Next up is From Ahoyerno, who says, I think someone like Bernie Sanders could actually win the presidency as a Republican. Not Bernie, but someone like him. Similar policy positions and ideals. That anger at the base has some legitimacy, but they should be correctly redirected toward left-wing issues. It is possible to convince people that their actual enemy is rich ghouls and not poor refugees fleeing war. Add to that the huge amount of non-voters to the left of the Democratic Party, and there's an actual path for party realignment. Crazy or realistic? Or will they continue to run increasingly demented candidates? At which point will both parties finally change? Similar questions are possible for the Dems. At which point does someone like Bloomberg win the primary? Well, I don't think it's realistic for the Republican Party to realign like that. No, I do think that most people in the Republican Party, that their professed conservative values are mostly either what they do truly believe or what they truly think the people that they want to vote for them believe, right? So I don't think they would just realign to become a far left party because there's a path to victory there. I do wish the Democrats would do that. I do wish the Democrats would do a lot more to appeal to the working class, and to people who might be tempted by the Republican message in terms of economic issues. I think the Democrats have much better policy where that is concerned and a much better track record where that is concerned. And I wish they would be better at telling that story. And I think the Democrats could do a lot better going in that direction. But the Republicans, no, I just don't think that's realistic. Someone like Bloomberg winning the primary, that's more realistic, but I don't think that's probably going to happen anytime soon either. I do think the Democratic Party, and thanks in part to Bernie Sanders, although I do have problems with a lot of his supporters, I think the fact that someone like Sanders has become such a prominent figure in the party, and also, people like the Squad, like AOC and Ayanna Pressley and Ilhan Omar, and Rashida Tlaib. I think them becoming celebrities within the party has helped to push it a little bit more toward the left. Not enough. I'd like to see it keep going toward the left, but I think it's moving in that direction. I don't think it's moving back toward the center. And I know people are like, but they just elected Joe Biden. Biden himself, yes, is more of a moderate centrist person, but he is also moving more to the left than he has been in the past. So even when the Democrats elect a moderate candidate president, yes, he's still a moderate, but he's less of a moderate now than he was 4, 8, 12, 16 years ago, right? He's moving more to the left in terms of policy. So I don't think the Democratic Party is going in the direction of Bloomberg at the moment either. And I hope that they continue going in the other direction. But yeah, as far as the Republicans realigning like that, I don't really think that's the way things are going. Next question is from Dara Sullivan. Agent Meister. Hi, Steve. Happy New Year to you and yours. I trust you had a nice holiday season, and I assume you will join me in the hope that the light at the end of the COVID tunnel will start getting bigger as 2021 progresses. Anywho, my question is this. Do you think that Star Trek might be a little overexposed at the moment? We have Discovery, Picard, Lower Decks, the upcoming Captain Pike series, the upcoming Section 31 series, the upcoming Captain Janeway series. Back in the day, DS9 overlapped with the end of TNG and the start of Voyager, but that was about it. I've been watching Star Trek since I was 8. I'm now 39, and I doubt I will ever not love it. I don't have a series I don't like, just ones that I like more than others. I don't know why, but I think that all these new shows coming out consecutively might be detrimental to the franchise. Your thoughts, please. As ever, stay safe, keep up the great work, live long and prosper, Agent Meister in Ireland. I think that is a concern at some point. I'm not worried about that right now because the shows have been released one season at a time. Like we get Picard, and then there is a gap of several months, and then we get Lower Decks, and the Lower Decks and Discovery were released consecutively. I mean, Lower Decks ended and Discovery picked right up the following week. But there was a gap between Picard and Lower Decks, and also Lower Decks and Discovery were very different shows in terms of, obviously one's animated and one's live action, different settings, different tones, different purpose for each show. I mean, Lower Decks is a comedy, Discovery is more of a dramatic show, and so I think as long as the various shows are different from each other in terms of tone and look and focus, and as long as there's enough of a gap between the release of the seasons to sort of give us a breather and give us a chance to build up some anticipation instead of going right from one show to the next, to the next, to the next, so that it's just endless Star Trek. Endless Star Trek sounds good at first, but that's eventually you realize that's how you do burn out on it, when you realize, oh shit, it's just nothing but Star Trek. You don't have a chance to miss it. You have to have a chance to miss it. You have to build some gaps in there, so the fans have a chance to miss it. So they have a breather. They can talk about the show that just finished. They can anticipate the show that's coming up. And I feel like CBS has done a pretty good job of that. So as long as they keep that up and they don't start, and also the seasons are short. That's another thing. Picard was 10 episodes. Lower Decks was what? Was Lower Decks 13? Or Lower Decks was 10? I don't know. But and Discovery was 13. And that seems like that's going to be a relatively standard episode, or a relatively standard season length, right? From now on, which is very reasonable. So it's fewer episodes per series, and the shows themselves are different enough from each other, and there's enough of a gap between their releases. I'm not worried about it right now. Could it be an issue in the future? Yes, but at the moment, no, I'm not worried about it. I think they're doing okay with it as things stand. Stephen Sutton, a question I invite your viewers to answer as well. The Voyager episode Virtuoso sees the Doctor introduce the brand new concept of music to an alien culture. He decides to showcase a sample of the entire Federation's musical history, as far-ranging as Earth-based 19th century opera to Earth-based 20th century lounge jazz. My question is, what other musical genres did the Doctor perform in that concert that were left on the cutting room floor? I'll get the ball rolling with Metal and Rage Against the Machine's Killing in the Name. If there's time, I'll add 80s synth pop with Suburbia by the Pet Shop Boys. Yeah. What other musical genres did the Doctor perform during his sampler of Federation musical history? Obviously, I mean, I guess this wouldn't be Federation musical history because they're not members of the Federation, but you got to have some Klingon opera in there. There's that Vulcan harp thing that Spock played. I'm sure there's lots of recordings of that. What else? And as far as Earth music, I mean, yeah, maybe throw in some Johnny Cash. Wouldn't you love to see the Doctor sing a Johnny Cash song? Wouldn't you love to see him sing like Folsom Prison Blues? Wouldn't you love to see the Doctor from Voyager sing Folsom Prison Blues? Or better yet, Cocaine Blues. There you go. I want to see the Hollow Doc from Voyager sing Cocaine Blues. That is my contribution. And yeah, if anybody in the live chat has any has any suggestions, please. Next question is from My Precious, who asks, what can you tell us about Stuffy and Friends? Are you still going to be in it, given the title change? Will any characters other than Stuffy be returning? What else are you at liberty to discuss? I guess at this point, I'm at liberty to discuss pretty much all of it. Yes, I will still be in it. Steve and Stuffy will still be a character in it, but the show will be titled Stuffy and Friends, and this is something that comes up in a later question I saw, but I'll go ahead and answer it now because people are asking, because the question is about Stuffy. There will be a lot of the characters from the old show will not be returning, and that is because when Ashley and I split up, not only did she Did we agree that she was leaving the show and she would not be voicing her characters anymore? And because of that, those characters will not be on the show. Like, I'm not going to have somebody else do the voices for Ashley's characters. She didn't want that. And even if she had been okay with that, I wouldn't have done that anyway. I think that would have been disrespectful to her sizable contributions to the show. So those characters that Ashley actually voiced will not be coming back, and that includes Millicent and Wilhelmina and Squirrel primarily. They will not be on the show going forward. And then also characters that were played by stuffed animals that Ashley actually owned. And that also includes, unfortunately, and I know this is going to hurt, but Toby Benson will not be on the show going forward. And Prospector Jones will not be on the show going forward. And I think those are the only... Oh, and Beauregard, the evil mayor, he will not be on the show going forward. So those are characters that I did the voices for, but that though the animals themselves are actually Ashley's animals, Ashley's property, and she's keeping those, and those characters will not be on the show. So the returning characters of the characters that have been established on the old series, the characters that are returning are Stuffy, Steve, Jack McPherson, and Hans, and Joff will show up at some point, I am sure. I don't have plans for Joff at the moment, but Joff is mine. The stuffed animal is mine, and Joff will be appearing on the show at some point in some capacity. I haven't decided. And there will be new characters. There will be new characters that we have created that will be introduced on the show that I'm very happy with and very excited about. And hopefully people will like the new characters. But yes, so the new show, and I'm still not sure exactly when the new show will be out. We are writing it at the moment. I haven't shot anything for it except for the short little sort of teaser that I released a few weeks ago. But yeah. So that the returning characters from the old show will be Steve and Stuffy and Jack McPherson and Hans Krieger, and as far as regulars, and also at some point Joff will show up as well. So that's what the Stuffy show is going to look like going forward. Isiah Taylor says, "So Steve, some of my friends have noticed that I lack sympathy for all the small businesses suffering during COVID-19. On top of this, I have also been getting annoyed with many on social media saying that the pandemic had ruined them going to music conventions or Comic-Cons. My response to this is, I don't give a shit. I'm a minority with a disability, and every day I get up every morning at 8 and attend online film school for 5 hours. I then work at a low-wage job at the hospital for 4.5 hours, and then ride my bike home, all while avoiding the police most nights and arriving home at midnight. I get only 6 hours of sleep most nights. I wake up exhausted, but I do what I have to do. Dear America, stop complaining over the small bullshit like masks and concerts. As you know, I've been through some things in my life, and I have no idea what people are complaining about. I want to work at an air museum, but I'm not whining. What do you think, Steve?" I generally agree with you. Yeah, I mean, I think people who complain about masks need to suck it up. I just... Wearing a mask during a pandemic is not a hardship. I mean, it's irritating. I would rather not do it, but I have never once refused or complained about it or thought that it's something that we shouldn't be doing. It's something that we all should be doing when we go out. When you have to go to the store, wear a mask. What is the big deal? There's no big deal about this. And yet, not being, I'm so sorry that you can't go to a concert. People are dying of a contagious disease. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that you can't go to a concert. You can't go to the movies. You can't go out to eat. You can't go to a club. You can't have dinner. You can't have holiday dinner with your family and have 50 people there. I'm so sorry. People are dying. Maybe next year, if you get your shit together and we can get to the other side of this, I don't have that. I don't really have sympathy for people in that regard either. I mean, I really don't. And I have not had your life. I have not lived through the hardships that you have, obviously. But I feel much the same way that you do about the COVID thing. I think, the needs must. The circumstances are what they are. And if public health officials are telling us the best thing that we can do is to wear a mask when we go out and socially distance and avoid gathering in large groups. And God damn it, that's just what we have to do. And I'm sorry that it puts a cramp in your social calendar. Like, and I cannot believe people are still complaining about this, and we are still having this conversation in January of the year after this pandemic started. It's been almost a full calendar year of this shit in the United States. And we are still having to explain to people why them not being able to go to a party is not that big of a fucking deal, considering all the death. Right? So yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. Eric Allen, all right, Steve, in Star Trek Discovery, we see that in the 32nd century, Earth has withdrawn from the Federation, and so has Vulcan, Nevar. That leaves the Andorians and the Tellarites as founding members. Gosh, that sounds like an absolutely hilarious odd couple-like sitcom in the making. Yes, I know Discovery shows us what's left of the Federation, and it still seems fairly human-centric, with plenty of other species present, but I'd so watch a sitcom of Tellarites and Andorians running the Federation, especially if we get Jeffrey Combs to come back and play some descendant of Shran. Lower Decks aside, what ideas do you have for a Star Trek sitcom? Cisco and Worf buddy comedy, which is not my idea, which is the concept of my friend Jason Jarman, who said that somebody should do a buddy comedy of Cisco and Worf as wacky roommates. It would basically be The Odd Couple, only Cisco and Worf. That's a great idea. Domestic sitcom focused on the O'Briens, instead of Full House, maybe Full Quarters. Like they adopt some Cardassian war orphans to fill out the cast, I don't know, something like that, maybe. What for people watching, and if you want to throw in ideas in the live chat, I would love to see your ideas for Star Trek themed sitcoms, and the cornier and the more of a throwback to the 70s and 80s and 90s that you can think of, the better. Yeah. So, let me see. Next question is from Jasper Turcott, who says, does Pence deserve any props for his Darth Vader moment? Tossing the Emperor overboard for refusing to interfere with the certification? Nope. He's been his vice president. He's defended him with everything that he's done for the last 4 years. Now suddenly, when Trump publicly demands that Pence do something that he does not have the power to do, Pence literally, legally could not have done anything other than what he did. So no, Pence doesn't deserve props for that. Pence doesn't deserve props for not trying to openly, publicly subvert the Constitution and do what Trump asked him to do. Pence did not have the legal power to do what Trump asked him to do. And if he had attempted to do it, I don't know, he may have opened himself up to some kind of prosecution. Like, I don't know. So I'm sure Pence had lawyers in his ear saying, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. What he's asking you to do, you can't do that. So no, Pence deserves no props for that whatsoever. None whatsoever. None of the Republicans who have spent the last 4 years enabling and apologizing for this president, who after the last couple of days have suddenly decided that he's out of line and he needs to be stopped, you deserve no props. You allowed this to happen. This is your fault. And now you're saying, oh, we had no idea. Oh, we have to stop him. I mean, good. It's good that you have had that realization, but don't expect me to pat you on the fucking back for it. Fuck you. This is your fault. This is your fault. Fuck you. Yeah, so, no. No. Next question is from Beautifulest One, Carl Roberts, Beautifulest One, who says, hey, Steve, this week we witnessed a shameful event, an attempted coup in our nation's capital, instigated by the president and aided by Republican politicians. Though I'm elated that we all flipped Georgia to blue and gave the Biden administration a bit of a fighting chance, I find myself impatient with the fragility of white identifying people who seem only able to express grievance and hate. I've come to love your Steve and Stuffy vids and the world of friends who seem to accept and love one another as they are. After all that has transpired in the past few years, I find that I'm no longer interested in healing but accountability for the armed toddlers who think they own this planet and everything on it. I'm on a ledge. Can you talk me down? Also, I got to let you know that I love Toby Benson and seem to identify with Ted, though my Euro ancestry is Scottish and I don't drink. I think you mean Jack, not Ted. You talk about Jack McPherson. Anyway, thank you for letting me rant, surrounding you in wishes for continued joy. Well, thank you very much, and I hope you don't take it too hard that Toby Benson is not going to be on the show anymore. I'm going to miss Toby a lot too. But that's just the way it is. But yeah, I'm glad that you enjoy the Steve and Stuffy videos. I hope you enjoy the new ones whenever we get those out. And as far as talking you down off the ledge, all I can tell you is, I mean, in a lot of ways, I'm right there with you. Like I'm not interested in healing either, not with people who are still Trump supporters, not with those people who stormed the Capitol building, not with the people who say that what those people that stormed the Capitol building did was okay. Not with the people who have spent the last 4 years inciting those people and cheering them on, but who are now trying to do a babyface turn at the last second and go, whoa, no, we didn't sign up for this. When that is literally what they signed up for and what they have been signing other people up for the last 4 years. I have no sympathy for them. I have no interest in healing with them or reconciling with them or making friends with them or extending my hand or extending an olive branch to them. Fuck every last goddamn one of them. Accountability, I am 100% with you on that. So if it helps, you are not alone on that ledge. But if it also helps, as you said, Biden won the presidency. Ossoff and Warnock won Georgia. That's not nothing. That should be the story. If it weren't for the Trump supporters and their half-assed attempt at a revolution, their half-assed attempt at a coup a couple of days ago in D.C., we would still be talking about what a huge deal it is that both United States senators from the state of Georgia will be Democrats. And one of them is the pastor of Martin Luther King Jr. and John Lewis's church. And the other, Ossoff, is the first Jewish American senator from Georgia and was also someone who knew John Lewis, who was sort of mentored by John Lewis. So that's a big deal. That's something we should all be happy about and proud of and hopeful about, optimistic about, that such things are possible. And yeah, the last couple of days kind of ruined that and drove that out of the headlines, which is fine, which is understandable, but let's not lose sight of the good stuff. Let's not lose sight of the good stuff. For the first time in a very long time, the Democratic Party, as imperfect as it is, the Democratic Party will control the White House and both houses of the United States Congress. The executive and the legislative branch will both be controlled by the Democrats. And that is a very, very, very good piece of news. So let's not forget about that. Yeah. But obviously, I don't want to downplay your emotions either. Like, it's totally reasonable and fine to feel the way you feel. But let's not lose sight of the good stuff. Sean Piper says, I know you've talked about walking the grounds of the Battle of Antietam to just get some quiet and perspective. I was wondering if you ever got to tour the Piper farmhouse. From what I hear, it's closed to visitors now. Our family directly traces back to the inhabitants, and it's an interesting connection to a time suddenly not so different from the present. I have never toured the Piper farmhouse. No, I know where it is. I know what you mean, but I've never actually gone into the farmhouse. But yeah, there are. I mean, Antietam is a fantastic place. Antietam, if you are interested in history and that's all you care about, Antietam is full of history. And if you don't give a shit about the history at all and you're just looking for a cool place to hang out and go for a walk, go for a hike, you can go for a hike in Antietam for hours and, you know, never pass the same spot. Like, there are hiking trails that connect and intersect and go all around the park, around the monuments and the features, and then into the woods, down along the creek. It's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place. But no, I've never actually toured the Piper farmhouse. Um, General Contact Unit Problem Child says, your video telling Republicans they have to lie in the bed they made. Should we really want quote unquote regular conservatives to feel like they have to either totally switch parties or support a more explicitly fascist Republican Party? I have serious doubts that they'll make the right choice. If the two-party system must continue, shouldn't we want the other party to be brought back to some modicum of sense, even if that just means returning them to their pre-Trump levels of awfulness? P.S. Are you planning on just writing Millicent out, or is Dana taking over the voice work? To answer the last question first, as I said already, no, Dana will not be taking over the voice work for Millicent or any of the other characters who are departing. Dana is helping me to write the new show. In fact, the scripts that we have done so far, Dana has written them herself with minimal input from me, and they're awesome. But no, Dana may do the voice of a character, or of at least one character on the new show. I would love that. But no, she will not be taking over the voices of established characters. No. And I would like to invite some more people to do voices. So it won't be just me and one other person. There will be a little bit more of a cast to do some of the characters. And I have some people in mind that I need to reach out to when we get a little closer to actually doing it. That's the voices will not work that way. And yes, unfortunately, yes, Millicent will no longer be appearing on the show. And as for your point about I agree. We should want the Republican Party to sort of pull back from the cliff. That would be nice. I would like that. But my primary concern is just defeating them, is just ending them as a serious, as a serious party. And I mean, I'm sure they would still be the de facto second party in the two-party system. I don't think there's any third party that is anywhere near close to the position that they could rise up and take the place of the Republican Party as the second major party. So I think we'll still have a two-party system, and it will still be Democrat and Republican, but the Republican Party hopefully will be, what I would like to see is that it will be very much diminished, and it will be a decidedly minority party, and that's the least that it deserves, honestly, after the last 4 years. But would it be nice to see more moderate Republicans take control of the party and have it be less explicitly fascist? Yeah, of course, I would like that very much. But more than that, I would like to just see them lose a whole bunch of elections. Some arbitrary dork who knows Steve can still handle tough political questions since he watches Titans. Yes, you are correct. My friend Joanna has a new begging bowl. It is in the charity links, which are linked in the description of the video. I have lost count of how many begging bowls she has put. She has always begged to live and raise her son as long as I know her, 3.5 years. She feels SSDI is trying to kill her because she's disabled, can't work, and thus worthless to the capitalist economy. She only gets $1,300 a month. SSDI and benefits are eugenics programs. If disabled folks have too much money or get married, they lose their benefits, the necessary money they need to live. Some disabled folks need to prove every year that they are disabled to able-bodied folks. You can stand for 5 minutes and walk 5 feet. You can work, despite the massive amount of chronic pain. No wonder my disabled friends are anarchists. The state is killing them. When will my disabled friends' unnecessary suffering end? When will Joanna never have to e-beg ever again? Right now, my disabled friends need a sugar parent. I gave over $35,000 in the last 3.5 years. Well, what I would hope, as for when, I don't know. But what I would hope is that eventually nobody will have to beg in order to live. And there's no reason why that should be the situation now. I mean, as I have said before many times, we live in the richest country in the world. And there's no reason for people to be living in the kind of abject, hopeless poverty that a lot of people live in. There's no reason for people like Joanna who have a disability to have to turn to things like online fundraisers and begging bowls in order to make ends meet. She is receiving disability benefits what is the point of giving someone a disability benefit if you are not giving them enough to actually get by on? I mean, if someone is disabled and they are not able to work, and therefore you are giving them a government benefit to allow them to take care of themselves and their family because they can't work, but the benefit you are giving them is not enough for them to live on, what is the point of that? I mean, I think programs like this need to be expanded. They need more funding. They need to be giving more generous benefits to people. I agree that the requirement that disabled people prove their disability every year or every so often is onerous and ridiculous and speaks to the paranoia, I think, and the grudging nature that a lot of people have surrounding these programs, where they think like, oh, they're just, they're taking advantage of us. They're just trying to rip us off by pretending to have a disability. Like, there's no evidence that that kind of thing is at all common. It may happen from time to time, but it is certainly the exception rather than the rule, and not nearly enough of a problem to justify cutting the program or being suspicious of the program or anything like that. It's just outrageous. So yeah, I think the whole, if we're going to give people disability benefits, and I think we should, they should be indexed to the cost of living in that person's area. They should be given enough to actually live on. I think that's the short-term solution, and the long-term solution is to create a society where people don't need to worry about, where the necessities are guaranteed regardless of money, where we don't have to give people money so they can buy the necessities. We just make sure that people have access to the necessities, no matter who they are. And then we move forward from that point. We're not there yet, and we're probably a long way from that. But so in the meantime, as long as we're handling it this way, by giving people benefits, by doing it in terms of giving people, like having a welfare state, the welfare state should be generous enough that the people who receive the benefits can live on them. Because otherwise, what is the point? What is the point of giving a disabled person who can't work money, but not enough money to live on? Makes no sense to me at all. Makes absolutely no sense to me at all. Next question is from Fernanda, who says, "Hey, Steve, how are you? Can you please share some words of wisdom for those of us who were not born in the U.S.? Where does the USA go from here?" Well, hopefully better days are ahead. Probably not as much better as they could be or should be, but better days. I do think we are moving in the right direction. I know that the last couple of days have been discouraging for people. I know that the events in Washington, D.C., with the Capitol being stormed by a group of white nationalists, domestic terrorists, has been discouraging to a lot of us. But hopefully those are just death throes of the Trump administration, and they do not reflect a new direction moving forward. I think the inauguration of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is something to look forward to. I think the Biden administration will be a chance for us to sort of take a cleansing breath and kind of get the car turned around and headed back in the right direction. And Democrats taking control of the Senate is a good step forward. And hopefully with the midterms in 2 years, they will take even more control, so we won't have to have a 50-50 tie with the vice president breaking the tie. And hopefully they will be able to like, now that we have seen even more evidence of what Republicans are willing to do when you let them stay in charge of things, now that we have seen that, hopefully we will have expanded Democratic majorities in the Senate and in the House. Hey, I don't know, maybe we'll get a couple of Supreme Court retirements in the next few years, and we can appoint some more progressive judges to fill those spots. Wouldn't it be great if Clarence Thomas retired? Wouldn't that be just the fucking best? So yeah, I mean, I feel like there's reason to be optimistic. We're not there yet. There's not really, we shouldn't be taking too much of a breather. There are lots of things we still need to be very, very concerned about. But I think there is a shot here. There is a chance for things to start moving in a more positive direction. And that's what I hope. And that's what I would like to try in my own small paltry way to help make happen. and hopefully a lot of my fellow Americans, and including some people who are watching this, feel the same way. And I think that's what needs to happen. Next question is from John Burns, who says, "Hi, Steve. I'm thinking of giving you some time to answer this. What is classic Trek? What 5 or 10 episodes from every Trek, yes, even those who people don't regard as being Trek, are the classic episodes? I'm thinking this might be a great video for you to make up, unless you'd simply cheat and copy some other video, which I don't think is something you do." No, definitely not. "Oh, and yes, this includes the animated series. So what do you think? Sorry, I don't really care what's going on in your capital this month. This too shall pass is my motto." Well, that's completely fair. Well, I think you have to throw in, I don't know. I'm not going to do 5 or 10 episodes from every Trek, because that's not happening, John. Sorry. But, and as far as like from across the franchise, I think for classic Trek, you got to throw in, City on the Edge of Forever and Amok Time. For TNG, I think you got to have Best of Both Worlds in there, and, maybe, Yesterday's Enterprise, Measure of a Man. Those are some really good ones that I think are representative of what makes the show good, what makes it a memorable show. DS9, I think, The Visitor, obviously, and Far Beyond the Stars and Past Tense are really good ones. Duet is another really good one. For Voyager, I think the pilot is really good. I think the first Q episode, Death Wish, is really strong, and The Thaw, which is the one I often cite as my favorite Voyager episode, with the evil clown who lives in the alien virtual reality system. I think that's a really strong one. For Enterprise is tougher because I'm not as familiar with it. I do think the Terra Nova storyline that sort of closes out the series right before that reviled series finale is really strong. I talk about, there's an episode in the first season that involves them having a rendezvous with a comet, which I think is really, really good. As far as the animated series, Star Trek the animated series, I think Yesteryear you got to throw in there. For Discovery, I think what's a good Discovery? Well, the Harry Mudd episode in the first season is good. The second episode of the second season is really good, when they visit the sort of the New Earth colony. What else? The Saru episode in season 2, where Saru undergoes his change of life and discovers that his people don't die when the ganglia fall off, that he actually passes into a different phase of life. That's a really strong episode. Picard is, I gotta say, the Riker episode, Nepenthe, is really good. Lower Decks, I'm not sure. It's I don't know, maybe the holodeck episode. Or the movie episode, the movie spoof episode is a good one. So yeah, those are completely off the top of my head. Those are like the strong episodes, or the representative episodes of each show that I think are the best that each show did. Joe McClory, I am so angry right now. This week, I had to tell a doctor that I think my dad would want to ignore his DNR for COVID respiration treatment. And I have uncles and cousins that claim masks are just control mechanisms and the vaccines are a fraud. If it was in person instead of Facebook, I think it would be hard not to hit them in the face. And to make it worse, earlier in the same day of the pro-Trump coup, some of the same people in my family were posting memes that suggested you would be a fool to trust the election. I hate them right now, and I don't know how to deal with it. Up till this week, I wanted them to be better again, but now I want to scream at them that they are what is wrong with this world, and I want everything they hold dear to rot and die. I know this isn't healthy. What do you do when you are this angry? Have you ever been? I've never been I've never been that angry at people in my family for an extended period. People in my family have said and done things that have really, really pissed me off and really, really hurt me and frustrated me and made me question having them in my life. But never to the extent that I think you're describing, where you're that upset. But I've had a taste of it, right? I think I know what you're talking about a little bit. And how do I deal with it? I tell myself that the anger is justified. I don't try to talk myself out of it. I don't try to excuse it. I don't try to come up with reasons not to be angry with them. I accept it. I sit with it. I feel it. And if I get to a point where I think I shouldn't be feeling it anymore, or I'm not, it's taking over, it's taking me over, and I need to do something else, then I do something else. I find something to distract me. I focus on work. I do something creative. I write a script for a video, or I shoot a video, or I edit, or I go for a walk, or go for a drive, or watch something on TV, or what, you know what I mean? I find something else to do that takes me away from it, that gives me something else to focus on. But I don't try to undermine my anger or talk myself out of it, because especially in that situation, it might be a very, very unpleasant feeling. It might be very strong, and you might think and maybe you're right, that it's not healthy to be that angry. But I think you're completely justified, man. I think you are completely justified to feel the way you feel. And it's frustrating, and it's hurtful, and it's infuriating. And there is nothing wrong with feeling it. And if it gets to be too much, what I do is I try to find stuff. I try to find other stuff to do. But and then hopefully the urgency, the hotness of the anger will fade, on its own. But yeah, that's what I do. Radical Bacon, how are you doing? I'm good. Thank you for asking. As I've said a couple of times already, I'm good. I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. So, but I appreciate people asking. I'm okay. And finally, last question from Vovacat17. Hey, Steve. So this one didn't go the way everyone expected. So my question is, how will this weird and absolutely outrageous 4 years and this particular week go down in history? Will it be along the lines of Watergate, or will everyone just try hard and forget Trump? Because it feels like the Republicans are trying hard to do damage control, and it just feels wrong. As some smart people on Jesse's Discord said, rats are running from the ship. And I really thought this abandoned ship moment would at least feel triumphant, but it didn't. Because everyone just pretends to be nice now. Hell, the whole Capitol March felt just a tiny bit triumphant, because now everyone will see who they really are, because trial by combat is a direct call to violence. It was all so impudent that everyone's supposed to go to jail now, right? But they don't, because politics. Will history make it right? I think it depends on what you would call making it right. I think history will make it right in the sense that I don't think we will forget about these events. I don't think history will look kindly on Trump or his people or his supporters or what happened this week. I think history will put it right in that way. But do I think people in the Trump administration will end up being prosecuted and going to prison? I mean, I would very much like to see that. Do I think it will happen? No, I don't. That's sad. That upsets me. That makes me angry, because I think that's what should happen. I think it's clear that people like Giuliani and Trump himself were inciting people to violence. I think Trump has been doing it all along, and other people in his circle, in his orbit, and who are carrying his water have been doing it all along. But I think especially in the last week, Trump has done it himself. Giuliani certainly did it. And yeah, I think they deserve to be prosecuted for it. Do I think that will happen? No, because I think there are a lot of people, and unfortunately, I think Joe Biden is one of these people. As much as I like him in a lot of ways and think he will be a good president in a lot of ways, I think he is oriented more toward reconciliation and more toward moving on. And I mean, I think we do need to move on, but I think part of moving on is holding the people who are responsible for this accountable, bringing them to justice, bringing them to law, right? I think that has to be part of it, but I don't think it will be. I think we will be very eager to just move on. That is a very American thing. It's a very human thing, but it's also a very American thing. It's specifically American. It's part of our national makeup, I think. It's part of our cultural identity is that we got to move on. Come on. We can't just, we got to move on. We can't stay like this. We have to move beyond this. We can't revel in this separation and this division. We have to come back together, And I mean, that's a laudable impulse, but I don't think it's what we need right now. I don't think it'll do us any good. But I think that's so. Yeah. But will history make it right? Yeah. In a way. Will it make it right in the sense of bringing people to justice for their crimes? Unfortunately, I don't think it will. So, sorry. Anyway, that's it for the patron questions. Thank you all so much for the questions. And now let's turn to the live chat and see what everybody is saying in the live chat. So if anybody who is watching live has questions or comments or shit you want me to talk about, please feel free to drop it in right now. Yeah. And let's see. Seal0626 says, do you think there's a chance that Wednesday's terrorists aren't being rounded up and arrested until after the inauguration so that Trump can't pardon them? Maybe. That's possible. Sure. I mean, hey, that's smart. That's smart. I know that is a concern. Apparently, Trump has been openly talking to members of his staff about pardoning himself. So, yeah, I think that's definitely a concern. Derogatory Trekkie says, gotta say I like episodes which are a bit outside the norm of Trek. The Trouble with Tribbles or Cause and Effect. What are your top 10 episodes outside the Trek norm? Well, Trouble with Tribbles would be up there for sure. Bar Association on DS9, I think, is a great one. That's sort of off the beaten track. Another In the Cards, which is another kind of funny, goofy DS9 one, which I really like. What's another good sort of off model Trek episode? I don't know, but those are a couple of the ones off. I can't do 10 off the top of my head. I'm sorry, but yeah. Oh, super chat from John Burns. It's not 50-50 Republicans, Democrats. It's 50 Republicans, 48 Democrats with 2 independents. Yes, it is. Actually, on in the video that we have going up on Monday, Dana makes the exact same point. It is 48 Democrats and 2 independents who caucus with the Democrats and vote with the Democrats. So yes. But the Democrats will still have the majority. Then the majority leader will still be a Democrat. Super chat from Eric Allen. I've already seen a perp walk of Derek Evans, so they are rounding some people up. Yes, they are. Some of the people who broke into the Capitol, yes, are being arrested, which is great. Fernando Nogales, disco finale, liked it? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I have a review video of the entire season written, and I'm going to shoot it this weekend, and it will be up on Wednesday. It'll be my review video of the entire season. I talk about every episode in season 3 of Discovery, and then sort of give some overall thoughts on the season. But yes, very quickly, very briefly here, I did like the season finale of Discovery. I thought ultimately it had some problems. I didn't think it was perfect, like the show itself, but by the end, it had me. And I was engaged, and I was engaged, and I was invested in what was happening and the characters and what. So yeah, absolutely. Super chat from Carlisle the Cinephile. Thank you, my friend. I lost my job just before Christmas. It's been a really rough couple of days. Could I possibly get some support and words of encouragement from chat? Can I also plug the GoFundMe I've had to set up? Yes, first of all, I'm so sorry to hear that. Please, anybody who wants to encourage Carlisle, please do so. And yes, absolutely, plug your GoFundMe, my friend. Plug your GoFundMe. You can always do that, for sure. You're always welcome to do that. Orange Man says, what's your favorite Star Trek video game? I don't really play video games that much. My favorite Star Trek video game is probably Star Trek 25th Anniversary, the PC game from, God, now it's probably like 30 years ago now when that came out. There's Star Trek 25th Anniversary, and there's also the sequel to that, which was called Star Trek Judgement Rights, which was basically the same game, just with new stories. And I really like both of those a lot. Spooky Trixie says, I'm not American, so I don't understand how the American legal system operates at that level, but can a sitting president give themselves a pardon? That seems messed up. It does, doesn't it? But the power of presidential pardon is fairly broadly defined in the Constitution. I'm not a legal expert. Maybe there's a way that you could challenge it. But generally speaking, I don't think there's anything in writing, absent a court decision, a Supreme Court decision, which may be coming soon if Trump pardons himself and then someone tries to prosecute him anyway for a federal crime. Absent a decision like that saying, nope, the president can't do that, I think the president can do that. And yeah, it's... How fucked up is that? Yeah. You're out to Trekkie says, I'm very scared of the Snyder cut of Justice League. Now it's supposed to be released in black and white. Why are there so many people saying that's how superhero movies should be? Because there are lots of people who don't know shit about shit. There are lots of people who have really shitty opinions about stuff, like Zack Snyder makes movies that I want to see. To me, from my perspective, from my subjective perspective, that's a really shitty opinion. Yeah, I'm not scared of it because I don't think it'll go anywhere, and I don't plan to watch it, so it's not going to affect me. And I really don't think it's going to be the harbinger of some new direction in superhero movies. No. Nick Jeffrey says a super chat. Thank you, Nick. Nick says wasn't sure whether to be flattered or insulted by your response to my steam drill comment in your recent comment response video. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. I thank you for the opportunity to do that bit. So I hope you take it in the spirit that it was meant, because I had a lot of fun having the excuse to sing a little bit of John Henry, which is one of my favorite folk songs. In fact, I think John Henry is my favorite folk song by quite a way. Another super chat from John Burns. Thank you very much. It says, Steve, the best way to answer Alta Trekkie is to tell him about Neil Patrick Harris's series called Doogie Howser. I think Doogie Howser. NPH is number 1 on the call list versus 11. Yeah, I like Neil Patrick Harris. I like Neil Patrick Harris a lot. And then another one from John Burns says NPH versus Will Wheaton on Star Trek Next Generation. Yeah. I got to go with NPH there. I like Will a lot, but I think obviously I think Neil Patrick Harris is far and away a better actor. Like, that's not even close. All due respect to Will, Neil Patrick Harris is a better actor, and it's not even close. Jamie J says, I just started listening to Late Seating and just wanted to say you and Jason are incredibly fun and hilarious. Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad you're listening. I'm glad you appreciate it. Wait till you get to about halfway through season 3 when Dana jumps aboard and joins the cast, because then it really gets good. But thank you very much, Jamie. I'm really glad you're enjoying the show. Lisa Garrison says you should start a Kickstarter to hire Robert Picardo to sing a cover album. Shit, that'll be something, right? 255 AD says, how do you feel about leftists saying, yeah, this was bad, but should we really cheer on cops and soldiers using force to get civilians out of a government building? I don't think we should cheer them on. I do think we should appreciate that they did their jobs. In this case, they were doing their jobs, and it was a job they needed to do. I don't think we need to cheer them on. I think I don't think we should cheer them on. But, I mean, they were doing what they were supposed to do. They probably should have done more of it. They probably should have done more to keep them out of the building or to get them out once they were in. But I don't think we need to cheer them on. But I think we need to acknowledge that what they did was necessary and that they were doing their jobs in that case. Super chat from Vovacat17 says, about history making things right. Opinion on Jews seeking, snatching, and putting on trial Nazis after World War II. Feels like we need some of that now. People like Jewish people who did that, I'm not going to tell them they had no right to do it. Like, it's, I mean, I'm not going to feel any sympathy for a Nazi who found himself before such a court, but I mean, seemed a little bit like vigilante justice. Like, I feel like, I want people to be arrested and prosecuted through the appropriate means. Oh, John Burns, another super chat says Neil was the number one guy, so the writers weren't going to make him a jerk. Whereas that wasn't true about Will, and Will tossed into scenes was normal. Yeah, I guess. Serena Geek says, "Is Dana Cole on late seating?" I thought she's on the Ensign's log. You're right. Yeah. Jamie did say late seating. Whatever. Ensign's log is what Dana's on. She's not on. We don't. Dana doesn't have to watch the movies. Dana's not on late seating. Yes. And Carlisle, the cinephile, you are very welcome for the support, my friend. Anything I can do. Amanda Barker says, how do you view Ensign's log in comparison to John Scalzi's Red Shirts? I have never watched Red Shirt. I'm aware that Red Shirts is a thing. I have never seen it, so I can't say. I'm told that the premise is broadly similar, but I can't imagine even a show with a broadly similar premise. Like Lower Decks, people also said, like, oh, it sounds like your show. I can't imagine another show, especially another Star Trek show, even another Star Trek parody show would ever be anything like our show. I think our show is too unique. It is too drawn from Jason and my own personalities and our own senses of humor and our own chemistry with each other. And now with Dana, now that Dana's on the show, I don't think any other show would be like ours. As for how do I compare it to Red Shirts, I can't because I've never watched it. I don't know. Dana ain't gonna watch movies if she don't want it. That's true. Yeah, let me see. 255 AD said Trump could pardon the people who stormed the Capitol building without knowing who they are. Carter pardoning all the Vietnam draft dodgers established the president for that. Yeah, that's true. He could. The president can issue blanket pardons. Yes, which again, is kind of nuts, right? I don't think they should be allowed to do that. Radical Bacon, will I get another cat? I don't know. I have not decided. Maybe, maybe not. I don't have any plans to get one right now. It's possible, but at the moment, I'm not planning on getting one, no. Matthew, are you going to hold auditions for additional Stuffy and Friends voices? I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to hold auditions. I have ideas for people that I think might be good for certain characters at this point, but I don't know if I'm going to hold auditions or not. Joe McClory says, Star Trek Perfect Stranger style sitcom. Who are the leads? Oh my God. Okay. Let me see. Who's the Larry and Balky of Star Trek? Holy shit. What a great question. Who would be the Larry and Balky of Star Trek? Damn. Spiner. Well, maybe. John Burns with a super chat says Data and LaForge, or Spiner and LeVar Burton. Maybe. I guess Data could maybe fit into the Balky role because he could be kind of a fish out of water. Maybe. I could see that. Yeah, but what a great question. Oh, yeah. I love Perfect Strangers. Perfect Strangers is one of my favorite shows ever. Okay, this is a good one from Some Random Geek. Do you think because of travel restrictions this year, the United States had to organize coups at home? That's because usually we're trying to overthrow other people's governments. And now I guess we've all been stuck home all year, and a couple of us just got bored and said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna overthrow this government." Right? That's great. And yeah, in the chat, there's some random geek is pushing Carlisle the Cinephile's GoFundMe. Please go if you can support Carlisle in his time of need. That will be great. And it will also be in the charity links. Thank you, some random geek. That's awesome. That's great. Phoenix Espresso. I don't think I am familiar with Nina Turner, so I don't think I have opinions on her. 255 AD, do I think the events of the past week will get libs to stop talking about giving Trump a pass so the U.S. can move on? I would love to think so. I don't know, though. I think there are still people who are that, married to the idea of, look, the Trump administration is over. We have to move forward. Like, I think there are enough people that I don't think they will be moved that much by the last week, which is sad, which is upsetting, because I think they should be. Like, yeah. Liam Foley says, how do you think having so many people falsely believe Biden is an illegitimate POTUS will affect his term in office? I really don't think it will affect his term that much at all, because I mean, the election is the election result will stand. I think that the thing that the election result should remind us of, if nothing else, yes, a lot of those people who voted for Trump, I don't think everybody who voted for Trump believes that the election was rigged or that the election was stolen, first of all. Like when Trump says, 70 million people voted for me and they all think that the election was stolen. No, they don't. Not everybody who voted for Trump thinks that. Everybody who voted for Trump should be fucking embarrassed and ashamed of themselves. And I'm not looking to make friends with any of them. But I don't think they all believe the horseshit that Trump was spewing about the election being stolen and all the conspiracy theories. A lot of them do, but I don't think all of them do. So that's the first thing. The other thing is, even if every single goddamn one of them does believe it, we still have them outnumbered. They lost the popular vote by 5 million votes. They lost. They're outnumbered. There are more of us than there are of them. So even if they all believe that Biden is an illegitimate president and they all decide to vote, if Biden runs for a second term or if Vice President Harris runs to succeed him in 4 years, whoever the Democratic candidate is, if all those Trump voters decide to vote against the Democratic nominee next time because they don't think that Biden was a legitimate president, we can still win the election because there are more of us than there are of them. And if we turn out to vote, we will win, just like we won this time. So it doesn't, and as for the time between that, I don't think it will affect his presidency that much at all, because they don't have a case, because he is not an illegitimate president. He is a legitimate president. Just like, as much as it pains me to say, Trump was a legitimate president. I mean, he lost the popular vote, but he did win the Electoral College. He was legally and legitimately and constitutionally the president of the United States. Now, I think he should have been removed. I think he should have been impeached for gross incompetence and high crimes and misdemeanors. But he wasn't. So, he was impeached, but he wasn't removed. So, Trump is the legitimate president too. He sucks. He's a shit president. He shouldn't be the president anymore, but he is legitimately the president, just like Biden will be. So I don't think it will affect Biden all that much, because there is no case for actual constitutional illegitimacy. There is nothing. Alta Trekkie, no, I have not heard about that. The mysteries of the Appalachian Trail and the disappearings in national parks. I may have, and I've forgotten about it, but it doesn't ring a bell off the top of my head. Ray Durazo says, do you think DC will ever make a great Superman film? It's not impossible. It's happened before. They've made great Superman films in the past. It is possible to make a great Superman film. Do I think it'll happen anytime soon? Unfortunately, probably not. But will it happen in my lifetime? I hope I get to see another great Superman film in my lifetime. Yeah, definitely. It's not that hard. Like, it's been done before. Lord Toast, yes, you all should have voted for Jack McPherson. Jamie J, that is a good question. Is there such a thing as a legitimate president on a colonizer's state built on stolen land? I guess that is a matter of perspective, right? I mean, if we look at it from the perspective of the Constitution, then yes, there is such a thing as a legitimate president. But if we look at it from the perspective of someone who is, let's say, a descendant of or an heir of the people who were here before Europeans showed up and kind of decided that this place was theirs? And yeah, I suppose there isn't a legitimate president from that point of view. That's a really good question. That's a really good, yeah. Jason says, has Steve noticed that I'm ignoring him yet? Yes, I'm trying to keep it together. Why do you have to throw it in my face like that? Why do you have to throw it in my face? Dear Alta Trekkie, how would you... Jason says, that's the stuff. Dear Alta Trekkie, how would I have made Wonder Woman 84 better? Well, I would have chopped off the Themyscira prologue completely, because even though it was well made and very well executed, it was superfluous to the story. Or I mean, it wasn't totally superfluous because it was thematically related, but didn't need to be there. We don't need to have a little prologue to explain how Diana learned that cheating was bad. Like, that's just, get that out of there. The movie was too long, so chop off the prologue. I would change the circumstances of Steve's resurrection so that he just came back as himself instead of coming back in the other guy's body. I know that bothered a lot of people, and you could easily fix that by just having it, instead of quantum leaping him into someone else's body, just have him come back as himself. It's a magic wishing rock. Just have him come back. And yeah, I mean, I would, other than that, those are the two big changes I would make. Other than that, just generally, I would want to reduce the running time to under 2 hours. There's no fucking reason for that movie to be 2.5 hours long. Those would be some changes I would want to make for sure. And now Dana and Jason are plotting to make me cry. Cool. Good. I like that. Good. I like that. Great. Just openly plotting to make me cry. That's awesome. 255 AD says, so Trump just got banned from Twitter. How should we react to lefties saying, yeah, he's awful, but do you want private companies deciding what's acceptable speech? Private companies already decide what's acceptable speech on platforms that they own, and that's completely fine. And also, Trump hasn't been banned from Twitter. He was banned for 12 hours, and now he's back. But no, there is lefty, righty, whatever you feel about free speech. I mean, Twitter is a privately owned company. Twitter has the right to set whatever terms of use it wants and to kick people off its platform for breaking its rules at its discretion. It's not a free speech issue at all. It's not Twitter deciding what is acceptable speech, period. It's Twitter deciding what is acceptable speech for its platform, and it has every right to do that. Seth Jones says, this year's made it hard to find time to continue work on my dissertation. Will you finish it for me? You want it to be good, right? I mean, don't give it to me. I don't even know what it's about. So no, I will not be. No. Has he been permanently banned? I didn't hear that. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, I haven't been paying very close attention, I guess. That's good news that he has been perma-banned from Twitter. That's awesome. I think that's great. It's like 4 years too late, but awesome. Super chat from John Burns says, after the Moors and Creole Main and the Reconquista are the Spanish Iberan with all the interbreeding from the Franks and the Arabic people in the Iberian Peninsula. Is the British royal family a middle-aged German family? I'm just going to say yes. Yes. Yes, they are. Oh, it just happened. Like, it literally just happened like half an hour ago. Well, that's why I didn't hear about it. I've been doing this shit. Yeah, 255 AD says if disability aid isn't helping, it's easier to justify cutting it. Isn't that the point? Republicans make government programs non-functional to justify a liberty. Yeah, absolutely right. That's what they do. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. That's something that they do a lot, and that's one of many, 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 many reasons why they should be voted out of office, why they should not be winning elections. Oh, Dana says, hey, asshole. What are the defining elements of fantasy in your not so humble opinion? I don't know. I mean, I guess I'll know it when I see it. I don't know what the, you mean, do you mean like fantasy just in general? Like it's things happening that couldn't happen in real life. A story that strongly features elements that are impossible, that are fantastic. You know, that's about as simple as I can make it. If you mean like high fantasy, then it has like dwarves and elves and magic and knights and dragons and all kinds of fucking shit that I couldn't care less about. That's high fantasy. But fantasy just in general, I feel like it's a pretty broad definition. Well, sorry, Dana, I didn't see it. Yell at me. Jamie J says, till both of your podcast co-hosts are the doms in your podcasting relationships. Are you always a podcasting sub, or do you sometimes switch things up? I don't look at it in terms of dom and sub, but it is, I mean, I guess it does kind of work out that way, doesn't it? I think I am funnier and I am a better performer and am a better, I guess, partner in terms of comedy. Because I mean, late seating is a comedy podcast. I mean, me and Jason are trying to make you laugh as we're talking about the movie, and Ensign's Log is definitely a comedy. And I think my strength as a comic performer lies in being sort of being the one that has his balloon popped, and being the pompous one who gets taken down a peg, and being the one who is usually the butt of the joke. Like, I think I play that sort of thing very well. I think that I know what to do in that situation. Like when I am the target of the joke, when I am the butt of the joke, I think I'm good at that. I think that's one of my strengths as a performer. So I think that's why it works out. I mean, I don't think that if we did, because, we've done some things in late seating where Jason has been sort of the one who takes the hit, and that has worked pretty well too. And Jason is good at that as well. But I just think I think that's one of my strengths as a performer. And that's the way I write my character in the Stuffy videos most of the time too, is that I'm the doofus, I'm the dipshit, I'm the clueless one. I think that works out really well. So yeah. Carlisle the Cinephile says, do you have any thoughts on the list of upcoming Star Wars projects that have been announced? Are there any that stand out to you? Not really. I mean, I'll probably watch them all, at least to give them a chance. But I mean, there's nothing about them. There isn't a show on that list that I saw it and I thought, oh shit, I can't wait for that. Like, I'll probably sample them all and I hope they're good. Like I would love to watch them and think that they're awesome. But I mean, well, I'll watch the live action ones. Are there any of them that are animated? I don't give a shit about the animated Star Wars stuff. But yeah, Geralta Trekkie, yes, I am the straight man in the 2-person joke for sure. Digital Booty says, stealing this question from one that got buried. You're the captain of a Federation starship. Who's your senior staff taken from all Trek main characters? I think I've answered a question like this not too long ago. Riker's the first officer. McCoy's the doctor. I guess, I don't know. Worf is the chief of security. Geordi's the chief engineer. Sulu's the helmsman. Data's the con officer, or the operations officer, and I'm the captain. So there you go. Does that give you what you need? Some random geek, aren't Vulcans just elves? No, they're Vulcans. Please don't ruin this for me, you all. Please don't be saying like, oh, I say like, oh, Klingons are just like trolls or orcs or whatever the fuck. Vulcans are like elves. Please don't ruin Star Trek for me by forcing me to think of it in terms of other boring, stupid kinds of fantasy that I hate. Please don't ruin Star Trek for me. Joe McClory, ooh, favorite puppet movie. Probably the original Muppet movie. Dorota Trekkie says, even if it sounds very Trumpian of me with there are fine people on both sides, but as much as not all cops are heroes, not all cops are bastards. No, I agree. Not all individual cops are bastards. There's a system that sort of forces cops to be bastards, or that encourages cops to be bastards, that turns cops into bastards. But there are individual cops that I think are trying to do the right thing. I think that's true. No, Jason, Q is not just Gandalf. Please, everyone, I love that my best friend and co-host of a Star Trek podcast is encouraging people to ruin Star Trek for me. Radical Bacon, would you watch a Muppet version of The Great Gatsby? Hell yes. Hell yes. Ray Durazo, is that Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings? Because for me, it's Harry Potter. I don't even have to think about it. Because I would be willing to sit through another Harry Potter movie. I ain't watching another Lord of the Rings movie, buddy. Sorry. It ain't happening. John Burns Super Chat says, Feregi is a Persian word for invader or neighbor of Greece. In the Victorian era, it referenced the British or French, mainly in India. Fascinating. Dana, I'm not jealous of Gandalf's hair. Not really. That's not. I mean, obviously, I'm not. I'm not. Long hair just isn't my thing. Not jealous of Gandalf's hair. No. I'm trying to think. I'm sure there's somebody whose hair I'm jealous of, but I can't think of it right now. But not Gandalf. No. Ultra Trekkie says, who would you rather be the counselor on your ship? Deanna Troi, Ezri Dax, or McKenna? Well, I mean, if it was our version of McKenna, from the Ensign's log, then I would like that. Yeah. $255 AD says, could you do a little bit of Forrest Gump as a Trump MAGA guy? That was my favorite part of that podcast. Okay, sure. We're going to take over the Capitol. We're going to Washington, D.C. And we're going to rally for the president because the election was stolen from him. Joe Biden's not the constitutionally legitimate president. That's what my mama says. My mama says this election was stolen from Mr. Trump, and we're going to go and take it back. We're going to stop those nasty Democrats from stealing the White House. Is that good? I'll kill a motherfucker. If I see that Jim Acosta from CNN, I'm going to bash his brains in. Yeah, is that good? Ooh, Radical Bacon says, do you think Siddig will show up on the Section 31 show? Is it set during that? Is it going to be set during an era where his character could be on? I mean, that'd be cool if we got to see Bashir in the Section 31 show. Do you think that's the era that Carl sent Giorgio back to, sort of a post DS9 TNG era? That would be cool. That would be cool. Carlisle the Cinephile. I don't think I can do other Tom Hanks characters. No. Liam Foley, do I like any fantasy film or franchise? If Harry Potter counts, then I like Harry Potter. If that counts as fantasy, but if we're talking like, I mean, yeah, as far as like Tolkien style, like high fantasy, like swords and sorcery, elves and wizards and that shit, no. I just find it just overwhelmingly dull. It puts me to sleep. This is a good one from M, Super Chat. Thank you for the Super Chat. Says, greetings. What are your thoughts about Paul and Michael's relationship going forward? People are saying she seems surprised that he was still mad. This is a reference to Discovery, that Stamets and Michael had a bit of a falling out, and it was apparently still a thing as the episode ended. I hope that they pick that up in season 4. I hope that they don't just let that drop. I think they obviously must be planning on doing something with it, because they had that moment between them near the end when Stamets kind of gives her that look from across the room and then turns away. So I really hope that they're going to continue forward with that. Because I think it's a really, really interesting character development for Stamets, because Stamets up to this point has always been, been very cold, and obviously he cares about Hugh, and they have a very strong relationship. But with Adira sort of becoming like a surrogate father figure to them, you see he's becoming a little bit more led by his heart than we've seen him before. So I think even though Michael made the right tactical decision, Stamets is completely justified for feeling the way he feels about what Michael did. So I really hope that they pick that up in season 4. Super chat from Matthew Valente. Thoughts on the White House attacks, or the Capitol, I guess you mean. I think it's embarrassing, and I think Trump instigated it and incited it and bears responsibility for it. I think the people who did it should be found and arrested and prosecuted. John Burns, Super Chat, thank you again, says, you're being arrested for a crime you committed. In what order do you prefer being arrested by? Spider-Man, Batman, average police officer? Is your being arrested by either of the first two propaganda? I mean, it's not necessarily propaganda. It depends on how the story is told. It could be, it could not be. I would really, really like to be arrested by Spider-Man. And then I would like to be arrested by an average police officer, because I am a white cis hetero man, so I have very little to fear from police officers. And then I would take Batman last, because Batman will beat the fuck out of you no matter who you are. But as a cis het white person, white male particularly, I generally speaking have very little to fear from the average police officer. So I will take them, but I would love to be arrested by Spider-Man first and foremost. Geraldo Trekkie says, would NCIS or Hawaii 5.0, the old and the new one, count as propaganda? Would Knight Rider and Magnum count as stories about sometimes failing cops? I haven't watched NCIS, so I don't know, and I've only watched a little bit of the original Hawaii 5.0. I think that would probably count, at least from time to time. I think most cop shows would count as propaganda, at least from time to time. And I mean, Knight Rider and Magnum, they're never like super critical of the police institutionally, but I don't think they are propaganda as much as a more straightforward cop show would be. No. um, 25580, knowing what we know now, could you ethically justify paying to go see a new Harry Potter movie, even if you enjoy it more? Yeah, from that perspective, maybe not. I was talking just in terms of what I would be willing to sit through just as entertainment, you know? Would it be difficult for me to justify paying to see it, knowing what I know about like J.K. Rowling? Yeah, I would. Yeah, that is definitely an issue. But just in terms of what I would expect from a movie and whether or not I think I would like it is more where I was going with that. Um, Draw to Trekkie says, "How are Dana and my fanfics going on?" We haven't gotten a whole lot done on them recently. Um, we haven't worked on them a whole lot lately, but I mean, if we ever finish the next one, it'll be really good. But yeah, not a whole lot of progress, unfortunately. We've both been working on other stuff. Yes, this I'm not recording it, but when the live stream is over, you will be able to go back and watch the parts that you missed. Yes, it's automatically archived on YouTube, and you can watch it whether you're watching it live or whether you get here too late. Yes, you'll be able to watch it. Gerald Trekkie says, "Why did people hate on Wesley Crusher that much? He was awesome. There was this kid who was a fracking core member of the crew, unlike other kids back in." I think because I don't think Wesley as a character, especially in the first season, was written all that well. And I don't know if the writers really knew what to do with him. I think the idea of Wesley is fine. I think the way you describe him, it's fine. Yeah, it's cool. The idea of a kid being a member of the crew, and it's nothing wrong with that. I just think the way they executed it was not always so great. Jacob Monroe says, "Any chance for," and a super chat, by the way. Thank you, Jacob. Jacob Monroe says, "Any chance for Airplane on late seating?" I mean, it's ultimately up to Jason because he's the one who picks the movies, or at least he's the one who picks the movies that then I make the blind choice of that decides what the next show will be. But Airplane, I think it definitely meets our criteria, but it might be a challenge for us to do on our show because we make fun of the movies that we watch, and Airplane is one of the greatest comedies ever made. So how do you make fun of a movie that is already a brilliant comedy? But yeah, I mean, in terms of the guidelines that we have set for what is a movie that we would do, I mean, it definitely meets those criteria for sure. Another super chat from John Burns. Thank you so much. The only reason for Harry Potter movies being a success is because of J.K., just like the only one responsible for Bill Cosby's jokes was Bill Cosby. See, I don't know about that. I mean, obviously the source material is important because, I mean, if J.K. Rowling had not written the books, then they couldn't have made movies of the books, but the movies are a collaborative process. And I don't think like Bill Cosby writing jokes that Bill Cosby then went on to tell is one thing. J.K. Rowling writing books is one thing, but an army of incredibly talented people, including writers and producers and directors and actors and set designers and special effects artists and costume designers and composers and musicians and everybody who comes together to make a big Hollywood movie like that. I think it's really reductive to say like, well, the only reason the Harry Potter movies were successful is because of J.K. Rowling. There have been great movies made from kind of okay, so-so books, right? So even if the Harry Potter, and I've never read the Harry Potter books, I don't know. For all I know, I could read a Harry Potter book and I might think it sucks. Like I've never read one. But even if the Harry Potter books were just kind of, okay, not so great, you could make a great movie from a not so great book. It's been done before. Liam Foley, do you think right-wing media will ever admit that Trump supporters attacked the U.S. Capitol? I don't think some of them never will. No, I don't think some of them will. Jamie J says, "What kind of pizza do you get?" Well, it depends. When I get vegetarian pizza, I really like mushrooms and red onions. There's a local place that I get pizza from time to time that on their veggie pizza they do mushrooms and red onions and green and red peppers, and they also put broccoli on it, and man, that is good. Like, you wouldn't expect, if you've never had broccoli on pizza, you might think, what's broccoli doing on there? Really fucking good. Yeah. Super chat from Nick Jeffrey. You should feature Return of the Killer Tomatoes. Young George Clooney uttering the line, "That's the bravest thing I've ever seen a vegetable do." Duly noted. I don't know if it fits our criteria, but I would like to watch. I've never seen it. That would be a good excuse to watch it. And another super chat from John Burns says, compare the Harry Potter movies to Tropic Thunder and the lack of backlash to RDJ versus Ben Stiller. Stiller got hammered. RDJ was woo. Well, I mean, you're right in the sense that if we have a problem with Ben Stiller and Simple Jack, then we should also have a problem with Robert Downey Jr. playing a white guy playing a black guy. Like, I both are, the arguments to excuse both are the same, and the arguments to object to both, I think, are the same. The argument to excuse them is to say, well, it's satire. The movie is making fun of movies like this and of actors like this. Robert Downey Jr.'s character is meant to be poking fun at blackface, and the fact that Stiller's character played a mentally disabled person in a movie is meant to make fun of that trope in movies, where an actor will court Oscar nominations and will try to, establish themselves as a serious actor by playing a mentally challenged person in a movie. It's meant to be making fun of that. But the other side of that is, it doesn't matter what they're trying to do. It can still be insensitive and hurtful. And whether you're trying to satirize something or not, you can still make the argument that, well, you just shouldn't do it because it's insensitive and it's in poor taste and it's just wrong. So the argument for and against both of them is the same. So I think it's a good point that if we're going to be angry at one, we should be angry at the other too. Okay, a couple more super chats just came in. I'm going to answer these, and then we're going to wrap this up. I'm going to call it into the festivities tonight. First super chat from Eric Allen. Thank you again. Says, RDJ got a pass because he's a dude playing another dude. Plus, most of the black community, mostly gave him a pass. Yeah, I don't remember a lot of controversy about, and I don't remember a lot of controversy about Ben Stiller either, but I know there was some. And another super chat from John Burns says, if you like Nathan Fillion, check out the movie Slither. I enjoyed this campy horror movie. Michael Rooker co-stars. I think I've seen Slither. Slither is good. You're right. Yeah. So anyway, that's it, everybody. I know there's a couple more questions in the super chat, but I'm going to wrap this up. I just want to remind everybody, as some random geek just reminded me, please check out the charity links in the description of the video to help out some friends of ours, including Carlisle the Cinephile, who just had his fundraiser added to the list, and a bunch of our other friends who need help, who are in a difficult situation. Please click the link, go to the Google Doc that Some Random Geek is kind enough to put together for us. And if you can help out some of our friends who need a helping hand, please do so. Also, don't forget that if you want to help me out and help me continue to do the YouTube thing, you can go to patreon.com/Steve Shives. And also, don't forget that in addition to doing YouTube, I co-host a couple of podcasts. Both of my podcast co-hosts were here in the live chat tonight, which is always nice. Of course, the great Jason Harding, who does all the work and who is my co-host on both shows, Late Seating, the movie review podcast, and also the Ensign's Log, the Star Trek themed comedy podcast, which is closing in on the end of its third season, and also the lovely and talented Dana Cole, who has joined Jason and I on Ensign's Log this season, and it's been a great benefit to the show. It's been so much fun, the three of us working together. And so if you haven't listened to Ensign's Log or Late Seating, you want to check those out, plus all the other great Let Me Listen podcasts, go to letmelistenpodcast.com. Links to everything you need for that are in the description as well. And that's it. I will be back on Monday for a conversation stream, and my guest will be Cybabe, Yvette Dentremont. We will... we're probably going to talk politics. There's been a lot of politics happening that we can talk about. So it's going to be really cool to have Yvette on the show. And that'll be Monday at 6 p.m. And then, of course, on Wednesday next week, Dana and I will be back for our Trek Reluctantly stream, where we will do a live watch of the episode Captive Pursuit from Deep Space Nine's first season. That's our next Deep Space Nine episode. And then Dana and I will be also back together a week from tonight, next Friday, for the next chapter of The Dispossessed on our Read Away series. So there you go. And plus next week is also, Dana and I have a video going up on Monday about whether or not Zootopia is propaganda. I have a video going up on Wednesday that will be my review of Season 3 of Star Trek Discovery. So boy, oh boy, lots of videos, lots of live streams coming up in the next week or so. Thank you all so much for watching. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate your support and your viewership and your questions and your comments and everything like that. Yes, and don't forget Dana's don't forget Dana's YouTube channel. Dana has a YouTube channel, and it's awesome, and I love her videos, and you will love her videos too if you watch them. So subscribe to Dana's YouTube channel. That is, I think that's linked in the description of this video, and if it's not, I will add it as soon as it's over, because I should have it in there. But anyway, link to Dana's YouTube channel, or subscribe and watch her videos too, because they're awesome. So anyway, that's it, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching, and take care. Have a good weekend, and I will see you later. Bye, everybody.